Welcome to Noha's narrative where everything feels real and something hides deeper. The new face nobody expected, Nora Simmons stood in front of the mirror in her modest apartment and barely recognized herself. Gone was the tailored blazer and the sleek bun she usually wore to boardroom meetings. Today she had on a plain blue shirt, comfortable flat shoes and a name tag that simply read Nora. New associate, she smiled to herself, perfect. Every single year, Nora made it her personal mission to walk into one of her own stores completely unrecognized. No announcements, no security team, no assistant trailing behind her with clipboard, no security team, no assistant trailing behind her with a clipboard, just her, a fake employment form, and two sharp eyes that had built the bloom and cool fashion brand from a tiny market stall into a nationwide chain of 43 stores. Today's location was store number 17, located on the corner of the Pembroke Street. It was one of our busiest branches, and lately the customer reviews had been slipping. People were writing things like, "The staff made me feel unwelcome," and the manager was the dismissive. Nora had read every single comment. Now she was here to see it with her own eyes. She pushed open the glass doors and was immediately greeted by the smell of fresh fabric and cool air conditioning. The store looked beautiful. Her team had designed it well. Racks of colorful dresses lined the walls and the soft music played in the background. So far, so good. "You must be the new girl," said a sharp voice. Nora turned around. A tall man in a pressed shirt stood with his arms crossed, looking her up and down like she was a piece of furniture he hadn't ordered. He had a name badge on his chest that read Dex Harlow, store manager. "Yes, that's me," Nora said warmly, extending her hand. "Nora, it's great to be here." Dex did not shake her hand. He simply stared at it for a moment and then looked away. "Right, so here is how things work around here. You do what I say, you don't talk back, and you definitely don't stand around looking confused because that makes the store look bad." He said all of this without a single smile. "Any question?" "No," Nora said simply, "I'm ready to work." Dex pointed toward a rack of folded jeans near the back wall. "Start there, fold everything. If a customer comes in, you point them to me. Don't try to help anyone yourself. You'll probably get it wrong anyway." Nora nodded and walked to the back of the store. As she began folding, she noticed another employee nearby, a young woman with warm brown eyes and quick, careful hands, straightening a display of summer blouses with real care and attention. "Hi," the young woman whispered, glancing over the shoulder to make sure Dex was not watching. "I'm Priya. Don't worry, it gets easier. Just stay out of the Dex's way and you'll be fine." "Does he always talk to new people like that?" Nora asked quickly. Priya gave a short, tired laugh. "He talks to everyone like that, but there is nothing anyone can do. He's been there for 3 years and the head office never comes around," so she shrugged. Nora felt something tighten in her chest. The head office never comes around. That stung more than she expected. Priya gave a short, tired laugh. "He talks to everyone like that, but there is nothing anyone can do. He has been here for 3 years and the head office never comes around." So she shrugged. Nora felt something tighten in her chest. The head office never comes around. That stung more than she expected. Just then, the front door opened and a young woman walked in. She looked nervous, fidgeting with a strap of her bag, her eyes scanning the store like she was not quite sure she belonged there. She could not have been older than 19 or 20. Nora watched as the girl wandered toward a rack of blazers and looked at the price tag and quickly put it back. Without even thinking, Nora stepped forward. Hi there. Can I help you find something? The girl looked up, clearly relieved that someone had spoken to her kindly. Oh, yes, actually, I have a job interview next week and I want to look professional, but I also don't want to spend too much because I'm still a student. I really want to make a good impression. Her name was Zoe, and she said. The girl looked up, clearly relieved that someone had spoken to her kindly. Oh, yes, actually, I have a job interview next week and I want to look professional. But I also don't want to spend too much because I'm still a student and I really want to make a good impression. Her name was Zoe, and she said all of this in one nervous breath. Nora smiled the way she had smiled 1,000 times before when she truly loved what she did. Okay, Zoe, let's find you something perfect. You don't need to spend a fortune to look like $1 million. She began pulling pieces off the rack. A structured blazer in navy blue, a pair of straight leg trousers, a simple white blouse that worked with everything. She showed Zoe how to mix and match, how to pick fabrics, and lastly, how to look confident without looking stiff. Zoe's eyes lit up with every suggestion from across the store. Jax watched the whole thing and he did not look pleased. Zoe stepped out of the fitting room wearing the heavy blazer and the straight leg trousers Nora had picked for her. She stood in front of the mirror, turning slowly from the side to side, and then the most wonderful thing happened. She smiled. Not a polite smile or a nervous one, a real full smile, the kind that comes when a person suddenly sees a version of themselves they didn't know existed. This is actually me, she said quickly, almost to herself. It really is, Nora agreed. Zoe ended up buying the blazer and the blouse, both on the clearance rack, well within her budget. As Nora walked to her to the counter, Zoe squeezed her arm gently. Thank you. Genuinely, you made this so much less scary. After Zoe left, Nora turned around to find Dex standing directly behind her with his arms crossed and his expression thunders. A word, he said flatly. He gestured toward the stockrooms and didn't wait for her to follow. He simply walked. Nora followed. The moment the stockroom door closed, Dex's voice dropped to the cold, clipped tone. What exactly do you think you are doing out there? Helping a customer, Nora said. I told you this morning you do not assist customers on your first day. You are not trained. You don't know our systems, our return policy, our promotional structure. You could have told that girl anything and embarrassed the store. She left happy, Nora said calmly. She left with items off the clearance rack. Dex snapped. Do you understand what your job is? It is to push the new arrivals, the full price items. That girl could have been steered towards something worth 3 times what she spent. He pointed a finger at her. You cost this store money today. Nora said nothing. She just looked at him steadily, filing every word away. Back on the floor, she returned to folding and organizing, but now her ears were working overtime. She watched Dax closely. She watched the way he spoke to Priya, short, dismissive instructions with no explanation. She noticed the way he never once greeted a customer himself, preferring to send junior staff forward and then criticize them afterward. Then around midday, she saw something that made her stomach drop. Bruno was a senior salesman at store 17, shouldered, loudly, confident, and apparently beloved by Dax. The two of them stood near the register talking in low voices, and even from a distance, Nora could catch enough words to understand. Just log it twice, Bruno was saying, online and over the phone. 2 entries. Double the commission, nobody ever checks. Dex gave a slow nod. Keep it under 5 per week and you are invisible. Nora turned away, her face completely still. Bruno was logging fake sales and Dex knew worse Dex was enabling it. She kept moving, kept folding, kept her expression blank. But inside, every single thing she was seeing was being stored and catalogued with the cool precision of someone who had run a company for 15 years. Later that afternoon, Nora witnessed something that broke her heart a little. Lena, a younger employee who had been quietly working the accessories section all day, accidentally knocked a display stand. It made a noise. Nothing broke, it took 30 seconds to fix. But Dex appeared out of nowhere like a storm cloud. Are you serious right now? He didn't raise his voice, he was cleverer than that. He kept it low and sharp so only Lena could hear. Do you have any idea how much that display cost? I'm taking the repair fee out of your paycheck. Assuming you still have a paycheck at the end of this week. Lena's face went pale. It didn't break, Dex. It's completely fine. I don't pay you to argue with me. I pay you to be careful. Were you careful? He waited. No. So, we are done here. He walked away. Lena stood completely still for a moment and then she turned back to the accessories wall and began straightening things with shaking hands. Nora walked over and stood beside her, pretending to look at the display of earrings. That was not fair, Nora said quickly. It never is. Lena whispered back, but what are we supposed to do? Nora looked at the floor for just a moment, then back up. Sometimes the right person is watching, she said simply, and sometimes things change faster than you think. Lena gave her a smile, puzzled look. Nora just smiled and moved on. By the end of the day, Nora had everything she needed. She had seen the bullying. She had heard the fraud. She had watched a manager who had been handed a position of trust and used it to make every single person beneath him feel small. Tomorrow, everything would change. The next morning, Nora arrived at store 17 exactly 1 hour before opening time. But this time she did not arrive in her plain blue shirt and flat shoes. She wore a perfectly fitted charcoal blazer, Bloom & Co. Bloom & Co.'s own signature cut, the one she had personally designed 8 years ago. Her posture was unhurried and completely certain. Beside her walked 2 members of her corporate team and behind them, the head of the company's internal finance department. Dex was already inside, preparing for the day. When he heard the front door open, he looked up with the automatic irritation of someone being interrupted and then stopped. Something in the way this woman entered the store told him immediately that the rules had just changed. He simply didn't know yet by how much. Good morning, Dex, Nora said. Dex frowned. Nora, the new associate. Why are you? He glanced at the people behind her. His face shifted. What's going on? Priya had arrived by now and Lena too. Bruno walked in a minute later, coffee in hand. Meatloaf had something on his phone. He stopped when he saw the room. Nora walked to the center of the store floor and turned to face them all. My name is Nora Simmons. She said clearly, without drama, without performance. I'm the founder and chief executive of Blooms & Co. Every year, I spend time working inside one of my stores without identifying myself. I do this because I believe the only honest way to understand what is happening in your business is to be part of it. The silence was extraordinary. Lena's hand covered her mouth. Priya went completely still. Bruno's coffee cup slowly lowered. Dax opened his mouth. This has to be. It is not a joke, Nora said. I have spent 2 days in this store and I have seen enough. She looked at him directly. Dax, in your time as manager of this location, you have consistently mistreated your staff. You have spoken to employees in ways that are belittling and professionally unacceptable. You have created a working environment built on fear rather than respect. and you have used your position to silence people who had every right to speak. Dex shifted his weight. Now look, if this is about the new associate thing I was just, it is also about Bruno. Nora sat and turned her gaze toward him. Bruno went very still. My finance team completed a full audit of the store's sales records last night. Nora continued, her voice even and unhurried. Bruno, you have been double logging sales entries, once online and once by phone, to generate false commission payouts. Over the past 4 months, this amounts to a significant sum of money that was never earned. She paused, and Dex, you knew. The color drained from both their faces. I didn't, Bruno started. Don't, Nora said simply, not unkindly, just firmly. The records don't lie. She turned to her finance director, who stepped forward and quickly handed 2 sealed envelopes to Dex and Bruno respectively. Those contain your termination letters and the details of the recovery process for the funds concerned. Nora said, you are both relieved of your positions effective immediately. Security will assist you in collecting your personal items. Dex stared at the envelope in his hand like it had appeared from another dimension. He looked up at Nora, and for a long moment his expression cycled through anger, then shock, then something that looked almost like shame. I built this team, he said finally. His voice was smaller than it had ever been. No, Nora said gently, these people built this team despite you. Dex said nothing else. He and Bruno left together, and somehow they managed to make even their exit look small. When the door closed behind them, the store felt lighter immediately. Lina exhaled slowly. Someone near the back actually let out a tiny, disbelieving laugh. Then Nora looked at Priya. You, she said warmly, have been doing the work of the manager for longer than anyone in this building has been given credit for. I have watched you this week, the way you look after your colleagues, the way you handle customers, the way you carry the store's values even when the person is in charge of it was walking in the opposite direction. Priya shook her head slowly, eyes wide. I am just doing my job, that. Priya shook her head slowly, eyes wide. I'm just doing my job. That, Nora said, is exactly the right answer. She smiled. The position of the store manager is yours if you want it, with a full salary review and the support of my regional team from day one. Priya stood there for a moment, and then something in her face shifted. The particular shift that happens when a person realizes that the thing they had quickly hoped for a very long time has just become real. Yes, she said, absolutely yes. The small crowd of the employees around them erupted into applause, genuine warm, slightly chaotic applause from people who had been waiting a long time for a morning that felt like this one. Later that afternoon, as Nora was preparing to leave, the front door opened and a young woman walked in. She was wearing a navy blazer and straight-leg trousers, and she was walking with the quiet confidence of someone who had recently realized they were capable of more than they had believed. Zoe. She stopped when she saw Nora and broke into a huge grin. You are still here, just heading out, Nora said. How did the interviews go? I got a second interview, Zoe said, her voice bright with barely contained excitement. I got a second interview, Zoe said, her voice bright with a barely contained excitement. They said I presented myself really professionally. Nora laughed, a real full laugh. Good, she said. Remember that feeling? That's yours now. Nobody can take that from you. She said goodbye to Priya, nodded to the team, and walked out into the morning air. Somewhere across the city, 42 other stores were open for business. She wondered which one of she would visit next. Thank you.